What a matchup!
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS on an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Can I just admit that one of the biggest benefits of getting a new phone is that you're ready to do radio and you don't even know where to find the phone button. Literally, I was sitting here trying to figure out how to dial into my own show. How ridiculous is that, right? Hi, everybody. It's first show out of 3 shows this week, as a matter of fact. Fantastic individual who can just wait online, hopefully for a minute or two while I do a couple quick announcements. So obviously we're hosting Stephen today, obviously now at 1:30 Central Time. Tomorrow morning, special show, and it must be pretty special because I never get up this early to do a show ever. So tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which would be 9:30 a.m. Central Time, one of the living legends in the journalism world, somebody I've been watching for the last 20 years, whether it's in print, whether it's on TV or otherwise. Mark Steinis is coming to the show, and one of the coolest parts about that is I can remember way back in the day when I used to watch Entertainment Tonight, and it was just, I remember him and Lisa Gibbons, and it's like history in the making to have him on the show. So I'm so excited, I can't stand it. So tomorrow, like I said, 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, Mark will be on the show talking about all sorts of different things he's done, including his photography work, his new show on the Hallmark Channel, which I believe is the Home and Family Show. So, again, tune in tomorrow. And then we round out the rest of the week at 2 o'clock Central Standard Time with one of my favorite publicists ever. She's the owner of Muggsy PR. Her name is Emily Chaffel. She's from Florida. I'll put the posting up. I just didn't get a chance to do that today, but I'll get it up hopefully with any luck at all by the end of today. I don't know. I'm a bit overwhelmed, so forgive me. 2 quick reminders in case anybody didn't get a chance. Please go to my YouTube channel or my Facebook social page and check out the video from yesterday. Yes, I was on the Morning Blend. Yes, 1,000 times over. Thank you so much to everybody who has listened to it or looked at it. No, I'm not particularly happy. I know that everybody was saying how wonderful I was, and I was like, no, my hair was out of place, my eyes were closed, they talked too fast. But I can't thank you enough just for taking the time to watch it. I do appreciate it, just like I do when you listen to my show here. So, yes, please check that out. Please check out the really tiny, small tidbit of the teaser trailer. I assure you that my dear friend Ryan, who's my new editor, is working on it as we speak, and we'll set up a screening event for it. But do check it out. My cast is phenomenal. Absolutely wonderful job that he did in less than 24 hours, I might add. So please check it out. Watch for the news on the event, and last but not least, I'm still taking submissions for my festival, Art is Alive, filmfestival.yolasite.com. Go there, go to the Facebook page, submit something, will you? Whether you're a screenwriter, web series creator, feature film, short film, youth film, you name it, we're taking all of them. Youth films are $10, regular films are $30, screenplays are $20. Art is Alive, filmfestival.yolasite.com. I can't say it enough. Please, please, please. And don't forget, heads up, I just announced this the other day, but I'll do it one more time. August 18th is going to be the day that we spotlight Frank Vincent. Obviously, myself and John Gallagher, the director from New York City, who I talk about all the time, we've noticed a trend in that both the SAG Awards and the Academy Awards neglected to mention him in the memoriam, and we don't like that. So we're going to show some films. We're going to invite his family, friends. We're going to do a big tribute and send-off to Frank Vincent. So if you can attend, please do so. I know it's in New York City. It's kind of a pain, but hello, he lived in New Jersey. So please, August 18th, if you could, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. I had to think about that a minute. Now, I'm going to stop talking so Stephen can start talking. How does that sound? Hi.
Hello. How are you, Cindy?
Well, you see, I have all these announcements to make. I'm like, every time I come on the show, I got all this stuff I got to tell everybody. Yeah, so we had to do that. And I see you saw the Morning Blend, so you can see that I'm not happy. I'm not happy.
And you did look fabulous, and you did a wonderful job.
You think so? Everybody keeps saying that, and I'm like, no, I didn't. I'm like, no, eyes are shut, talking too fast. I'm like, oh, my God. And my best friend was there to kind of save the day. She was wonderful. We were both wonderful. It was a great opportunity, actually. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about you. We have so much to talk about with you. It's sickening because I creeped on you.
Right.
So I know lots of things, lots of things. First of all, very first thing I want to talk about is you're growing now. Obviously, your season is starting now. So let's backtrack and let's talk
It
a
is.
little
So
bit about
before we start, I'd like to wish everybody a really wonderful, happy spring. You know, we finally made it through the winter, except for your East Coast listeners. I understand they're being hit. So
big time hit right now. I'm very concerned about that, but it is what it is. You know, they live in New York. We live here. We know the snow is coming. And I hear we're getting snow. I didn't want to say it, but it might be true.
Well,
yeah, I know.
We'll survive.
And I know you don't like hearing it. Yes, and we will survive. But, you know, that's one of the things we're going to get into, as a matter of fact. So it's spring. So let's talk a minute about this. First of all, who the hell gets up at 4:30 a.m.? Because apparently you do. And I don't know if that's a farmer thing or if that's just a I can't sleep at night thing, but who does that? I'm like, I can't do that. How do you do that? How?
You just do it. Early to bed, early to rise, you know, the old saying says. So I work physical. So by 3:34, I'm done. You know, especially on those 90-degree days, high humidity. So I get out in the morning, you know, start my day off early. The city's nice and quiet. No one's bothering me. You know, you see a lot of people coming home from the nightclubs sometimes, and that's kind of a hoot.
Oh, definitely. I believe it.
Yeah.
Well, it occurs to me, you live in Wisconsin, so I'm thinking to myself, he knows it's rain, because I've seen that you've actually commented on that on social media quite a bit. It's a rain day or it's a snow day, etc. So I'm curious to ask why a gentleman would pick Wisconsin to do something such as yourself, meaning cultivation and urban farming, when the weather's kind of you know what I'm saying, like kind of 50% good, 50% bad. How's that work?
Well, you just make it work. You're off during the winter months after the season, after your harvest. Then you have to subsidize your income. I'm a real small farmer, 2.2 acres in the city. So I do spin gardening, and we can get into that a little bit later. But you do. I own real estate too that subsidizes the income. Myself, you make the most money during the season that you can to survive the winter months. See, I'm just blessed. I like to do what I like to do, and I've been a horticulturalist for so many years already, professionally, that I'm just accustomed to that whole lifestyle. In winter months, you're off too, So I've been just my whole adult life, I've been doing it.
Well, and if you listen to him, folks, one of the things I'm thinking about, and I might have even said this to you the other day, I'm like, totally do we not want to hear him on radio, like, every day? I mean, listen to the sound of his voice. It's kind of like Michael Madsen meets a few other people I can't think of. But I'm like, you have that deep voice where you could either do radio or kill someone. So I guess I should ask you, have you done radio or killed anyone? Because you are fitting the motif quite well. Okay, so this is good to know. You should think about that, though. No, seriously, you have, or voice artistry. There you go. To subsidize your income, you could be a voice actor. I don't know if you've ever looked into that.
There you go, right?
Just saying. I'm just throwing ideas out there. That's all. I want to make sure that you're fed and kept and you keep that beautiful house. Okay, so let's talk on that beautiful house. We all can't see it. I haven't even seen it yet. Thanks a lot. Anyway, but it's vintage and Victorian and so beautiful. Yes. Okay, so tell everybody a bit about what give them like a bird's eye view, even though they're not in there, and tell them why it is that you deck your house out in the manner in which you do, because I think it's so phenomenal.
Okay, I'm sitting in the gentleman's parlor as we speak.
I love that.
It's Victorian, 1850s, all the way through, I'm going to say 1901. You might cross into the Edwardian period, the heavy drapes, the carpet, the fireplace, the mantle, the whole 9 yards. I'm a big history buff. I've been collecting for years.
Right.
And that, how can I word this? Since I am such a big history buff, I deal with a lot of vintage varieties too, and we're pulling in the urban farming. Okay? And I get to live in history. I guess I get to live in this little bubble of 1890s. And I just love it, the hustle and bustle of my everyday life. out there, pushing the veg, selling,
Right.
planting, harvesting. This is my comfort zone. 52 years old. I grew up in a tri-level.
I was just going to ask
right?
that. I'm like, did you live like that? Like when you were younger, did you come from that sort of thing? Really? Okay.
No, tri-levels, early 70s, the orange and the burlap kind of looking furniture with the big flowers and the whole mod thing. Yeah. No, I've always been infatuated with history. So this is how, over the years, I was able to collect it. So there you go.
Awesome. I love it.
Right?
See, we all want to come to his
Thank
house
you.
now. All 60,000 of us are going to come piling over to your house and be like, dude, give us a tour because we absolutely love it. And it is, I'm telling you, I see pictures all the time and I just salivate. I'm like, my house totally doesn't look like that. It's older. I'm on the river in Glendale and I'm like totally jealous. I'm totally jealous.
Well, we'll have to have you over for a cup of homemade wine sometime.
Homemade spirits, which we're going to get into later, as a matter of fact, as well. Okay. Interesting facts that we have, folks. One of the things that I found interesting is that when we had met in person, you had talked about the concept of maybe doing private gardening for individuals. So have you ever done that before? We've talked about you venturing into that, but because it's kind of same but different, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, actually, as a horticulturalist, I did work in the private gardening field for private homes for many, many, many years. And then I went to the American Club, worked in their courtyard, and I picked up that whole, ornamental aspect of it. I owned 2 garden centers, explored that whole aspect. And then, certain things happen in life. I don't know if you want to get into that. I was in a real bad car accident, and I broke my neck and my back. And that's how the urban garden started. I mean, nothing more, nothing less. I couldn't do what I was doing. A huge change in life. Was unable to do it, let's put it that way. It took me about a total of 10 years to recoup through all my surgeries and the therapy and all that. So I kind of missed a lot of my 40s. Not so much late 40s, I was able to do it. But it started off getting back to that with the garden plot. And I was on this regiment of medication, maybe 13 pills a day. And I became anemic, and I was just hell-bent, if I can use that word, not to put another pill in my mouth, And I then just spoke to my doctor, and he told me, listen, Steve, you need to get a little more active. If you don't get active, you're going to end up, with your injuries, chances are you're going to lose all your muscle mass. If you don't, get active, why don't you start, get back into the gardening aspect? And I'm like, well, I couldn't do that. So,
right.
Why? Because my body wasn't, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought. No. I was just going to stop you for a second.
What happened was then I just planted a small plot of beets. I was able to produce a decent crop, work on my land. It was good physical therapy. It was getting me out of the house. It was feeding my body and my soul. And I forgot because I'm very spiritual, and I love working with the soil. This time of year, I get real antsy because I get rebirth every spring. I'm able to play in the dirt and the soil, and it just really brings me to that point, spiritually, and that's how the whole garden started, health-wise.
All right.
It was all about health. It was all about spiritual. I just went that route. And then after a while, went off the medication, was able to start it off slowly. I built a couple clients up here, a couple clients there, and here I am. It's a miracle. I mean, if you really think about it.
It is.
It's a blessing.
It really is, as a matter of fact. Oh, no, I agree with you, actually. I want to make a big, important point here. a lot of the people that listen into my show are always talking about things that are motivating and inspiring. So if somebody is listening today, and let's say that they've had their own personal tragedy, whether it's an accident, an illness, etc., and as you mentioned,
Sure.
it's 10 years of recovery for you, what would you say to them that kept you going? What gave you hope? And obviously, of course, your work did, but I mean, what kept you going? What keeps you motivated and inspired? Maybe give them a little hope or give them a little help in terms of continuing on their own journey, whatever they're struggling with right now while they're listening in.
Okay, well, one day at a time. That would be the best thing to start off with. I mean, don't get me wrong, I have my bad days too.
Sure.
But you have to hang in there. You have to start off. If you're going to get into the whole gardening thing, just start off slow. Start off with some container gardens. If you're unable to actually dig and all that, and just enjoy the outside, fresh air. You don't have to finish it all in one day. If it's a couple days to finish a project, so be it. But you were out there. It's going to inspire you. You get to see your finished creation, be it either a veg or a flower pot, and just hang in there, and you'll be all right. Start off slow, and it will take time, and to heal. It doesn't have Rome wasn't built in a day, as they say,
right.
And you'll get over it eventually. How's that?
That is some excellent advice.
I mean,
and since we're on challenging subjects, etc., or creative, challenge, inspiring, motivating. Okay, so as I understand it, you're gay. I'm not.
Yeah.
You're gay, which I have no
Right.
problem with, or none of us do. But let's talk about that a minute. Your
Sure.
journey obviously is a little bit different than some of the other people that have been on the show with their own journey. So talk a little bit about, obviously you're very comfortable in your own skin. Folks, I know that you haven't met him, but I have, and I can tell you he is 180% comfortable in his own skin. But we all know that not everyone is like that. So for your
Right.
journey, maybe you could just share with us a little bit about how has that impacted upon your life personally and professionally? Not so much necessarily for yourself, but meaning outside things. How has that experience been, obviously? Because you've been gay, I don't know, how long have you been gay? Your whole life?
Wow.
Or did you come out at a certain point?
Yeah, I was a late bloomer. I came out at about 24, 25, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha.
And that was back in the day, too. That was before, you were still kind of quiet and did your own thing. And impact-wise, professionally, never really had an issue with it at all. I was a gardener. Always worked outside. I don't know where to go with this, to be honest.
Well, the only real thing, one of the biggest things that I'm looking for is, again, I have a substantial size gay community that listens to my show. And I hear it all the time. And I meet people all the time that are really hesitant about being real to who they are. They work in an industry that doesn't accept them, or they get judged for the people that they are, especially in my industry because we're all creative. Not everyone is embraced for their sexuality or for their stance or their status. So, again, we go back to, if someone's listening right now to Stephen and they're thinking to themselves, this is a gay, successful man, and he's proud of what he's done, and he's proud of himself, and he's not ashamed of himself. If they're struggling with that identity and they're struggling with where they're at, what would you tell them to do?
Just hang in there. Be who you are.
Exactly.
You can't hide. You can't hide from, there's an old saying. What's the old saying? You can't hide from your family. In a sense, they are who they are, and you have to accept people for who they are. And, it's a lot different now than it used to be. I come back from a generation that was a little bit more closeted. And it's very open now. And, and don't get me wrong, I still struggle with issues from people. And you just, I can't say it on the air, but I would, basically tell them, I don't, you just don't take it. You just don't take it. And if people have issues with that, well, that's their problem, not mine, and move forward.
Exactly.
And, and find a support group out there and find people who are interested in you as a person.
Right.
And just go out there and live your life, and don't be ashamed of who you are. Don't, because you know what? That's not going to help you at all. And I know it's easier said than done. I know. I've been there. I traveled that road many, many years ago. And each person has their own story about coming out, too. And it's just, interesting.
I agree, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I find it so fascinating that that in 2018, we still have issues with gay people. We have issues with gay marriage. We have issues with females. We have issues with females being pertinent, important, etc. I'm fascinated by the fact that we kind of take 5 steps forward and 25 steps back every other day, I might add, in this generation.
But that's society in general. That's just, eventually 2 generations down, it won't be a big deal. You know?
Agree. Without a doubt. I agree.
So right
100%.
now, for us who are stuck in this particular time, just, hang in there. Things are getting better. Don't be ashamed of who you are. You're a wonderful person. You have gifts to offer people in your community, and get involved. Get involved.
Good answer. Really good answer.
Get involved. Yeah, get involved in your community. Show the spirit. If you're, if people are willing to accept you, the general public, let's just say, maybe you dress a little different than most people. Well, then, you know what? Then go out, get involved in your community, because it's just important. I mean, there's such a suicidal rate for young gay people these days, and it's getting a little bit better. But the bullying, I was bullied too. Very honestly, I was. But, I'm also an adult. I'm not a 10-year-old. And it just made me stronger. It made me more independent. It made me more determined. And I wasn't about to let anybody tell me, and maybe that's my downfall now, because I'm a little more outspoken than I should be probably. But,
Yeah, I do. I get it. I do. Okay. And I appreciate that advice, actually. And so do most of my listeners. I'm certain of that. And since we're talking about the personal side of Stephen, let's take it one step further, of course. A couple different things. First of all, I found out last night in researching, I knew that you were a Scorpio, but apparently one of the most compatible signs with Scorpio is my sign, which is Cancer, which is probably why we get along so well. So it begged me to ask the question, are you a true Scorpio or kind of a half and half on the cusp, or do you not follow the whole zodiac thing?
Well, I do. I am a true Scorpio. I rule the zodiac.
I knew it. Okay.
Right. There you go.
Look at that in a nutshell. So he's a true Scorpio. Right. He also has brothers and sisters, of course, because I had asked him about this, and he has a family back there, of course. And I want to talk about one of the things that's close to you, of course, because we had a discussion about that charity that you get involved with, which is Savage Support. So tell folks a little bit about why you participate in that, and along with the background as it relates to your sibling on that.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Savage Support is run by a friend of mine, Diane Savage, and she is a survivor of breast cancer, and she helps morally with and deals with cancer patients, per se breast cancer, and it touched me even prior to working with Dee. My sister is a survivor of breast cancer. So, and it's so rampant out there these days. And that's how that all came about. And Dee is a tenant of mine. And she runs that nonprofit. And I thought, how wonderful. What a way to help somebody out who's dear, with a cause that's dear to me. And so, I help her out regarding donate, for example, this year we're going to do probably like a gift box, and we're in the middle of talking about perhaps like if I do a crop of green beans, 10% of the sales will go automatically to that particular charity. I like to always try to think outside the box, that's going to impact. Right. And she's a huge foodie too, and that's, that's how that whole situation came about. The cancer. I have a dear friend right now. His name is Stacy, and he's suffering. He's actually doing very well, stage 4 cancer. So I just, for whatever reason, I want to help these people. It's just a horrid disease, and it's so common now. It's so common. I think everybody somehow got affected, or is affected, I should say, by cancer, not like, through a relative or friend and again, I personally believe that goes back into the whole food situation. I think it's the hormones, granted, you might be a smoker. Okay, fine. I get it. But, I think there's a lot more to it than a lot of people think, or maybe the corporations are telling us. I just like to eat, clean and simple. And I like to know where my food comes from. And,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, getting back to that to me, that's just the most important thing. I mean, I can tell you exactly what is in that soil and what plot it came from and when I planted it and when it's, harvest time is. And if I didn't invent the whole farming thing. I'm just doing practices that our great grandparents did probably.
Sure.
Simple manure from the farm, tilling, watering, nurturing, harvesting, and, putting it on the market for other people to enjoy it. That's the
And
thing.
they do enjoy it. And enjoy
Oh,
and
they love
enjoy
it.
and enjoy, I might add.
Right. And I did about 7,000 pounds last year, came in and out of that farm. Yeah, right?
Wow.
Crazy.
Just listening to that numbers,
yeah.
like, let that thing sink in for a second, right? I mean, listen to that. Thousands of pounds. That's amazing to me. Holy
Thousands,
mackerel.
yeah. That's what walks through the door, throat. Yep.
Oh, you mean from one? Now that's one season, meaning you plant starting April and then you start selling as of June. Is that correct?
Yeah, mid-June. Yep.
Okay,
it
that's what I
depends
thought.
on the weather. I mean, yeah. I have hoop houses, so I'm going to, those are going up next week. And we're going to get soil all nice and warm in there. And then I'm going to be going out and doing my spring green crop. And hopefully, it'll be about 70 in there in those hoop houses during the day. And then if it gets real cold at night, and the heat sometimes doesn't tend to stay in, but the soil's nice and warm. So what I do is I do old-fashioned smudge pots. Are you familiar with the smudge pot? Smudge pot is a kerosene lamp.
No. Really?
Yeah, it's a kerosene lamp, and it goes right on the ground, and that's the way back in the day the orchards down in Florida, citrus crops, and or turn-of-the-century greenhouse houses used to protect their crops from the cold.
Oh my God! How cool is that?
Yeah.
See, that's so cool.
So it's a trip. It's a trip because all of a sudden, you go. Let's say April 2nd. I'm just throwing it out there, and it's night, and all of a sudden you'll see this illuminated hoop house. This really cool glowing hoop house, and that's when the smudge pots are on, and they're keeping the plants above freezing, especially when you deal with lettuces and other greens. And it's a whole different world, Cindy, that I live in. I live in Steve's world, as they say.
Well, and then it's
right?
no surprise to me, but I'm going to ask this question anyways, because obviously you deal in this industry, so I get it. But I was even surprised when he told me this. Now, the real estate, meaning that you've been, for almost 5 years now, you've been obviously owning real estate or in that endeavor. I'm curious to ask, is, again, owning real estate versus cultivating the land on real estate is very different to me, and just as the outsider looking in. So I was like, why does this guy want to get into real estate? I'm like, you're already farming, and that's taking like God knows how much. Do you know what I mean? So again, what's the allure there for you? Why do it?
Well, okay, the farm is based on one of on the property over on Juneau.
Okay.
That's where it's based out of, and then I love real estate. I love people. I love working with my hands. I'm just one of those guys, And
Mm-hmm.
I just enjoy it. It's a safe investment. It helps me out during the winter months. I provide a very nice place for people to live. It's on an urban farm. We're licensed where you have a permit to have birds, chickens. So, how cool is that to walk out your back door? You don't have to cut the grass.
Right.
You got veg. Part of the perks are, hey, if I have extra or if you see something, go help yourself. You're making a lettuce. Hey, I'm working out there. Hey, Steve, do you got extra lettuce? Yeah, over here. Just help yourself. Those are perks. And I just provide a nice, safe, quiet place for people to live here in the inner city.
That's awesome.
Right?
That is awesome, actually. And one step further on the, oh, my God, I read this and couldn't believe it. Well, I can't believe it, but I can't. But I see that you at one time had volunteered at a daycare center. I was like, you work with little people. Or did you not work with little people?
Yeah, I'm not, kids are cool as long as they're little, I'd like to,
What does that mean? Because we all started as little and moved up.
But once that mouth starts running, I don't want to see them until they're 21. That's my concept.
Apparently, Stephen's not going to be having children at home all the time.
Yeah, I'm not planning on having any kids.
Oh,
so,
that's a shame. That is
Pardon?
a shame. You're so sweet.
Well,
You're so sweet. I could have seen you do the dad thing. Seriously.
Well, yeah,
that's
I'm just not conducive to, kids.
Got it.
My
no, I
lifestyle
understand
wasn't.
some people are not. I got it.
Right.
Now, this is the part where we have a little educational seminar here, because I really railed him about this the other day, because I'm like, by the time we get done with this interview, folks, you're going to be like, dude should be teaching. And we're going to do a little test right now, because I am stupid, and I'm not kidding. I'm stupid when it comes to your industry, what you do, and the things that you use.
Okay.
So I've taken some terms here, and I'm like, he's going to explain this to us right now, because I don't know what the hell he's talking about. First of all,
well, I hope I know the terms.
Well, two terms. Hoop house. I'm like, hoop house. I'm thinking basketball. Hoop house. I'm like, hoop house and farming and gardening. What the hell is that? Okay, so let's start with that. What's a hoop house?
Hoop house. Okay, a hoop house technically is it's usually a seasonal greenhouse. It's not. It acts as a greenhouse. It's usually made out of plastic. You can do it out of other materials or mediums. It's just a temporary structure. It's not an actual greenhouse, with glass panes. It's all made out of plastic. Acts just like it. It's non-heated. It doesn't have the actual heat or radiators in it, and it's a portable facility. How's that?
Okay. I gotcha. That makes a little more sense. Okay. What's a smug pot? I'm like, smug pot? What? What does even smug mean? Smudge pot,
right?
smug pot, same thing.
Right? A smudge pot. A smudge pot, okay, is a kerosene lantern. Typically, the base is made out of a metal, and it has a glass shade. Okay, it has a central drawn shaft, which means it burns hotter. Okay, and it gives off heat, and that is used typically when there's a forecast of weather going to be dropping below zero. You put that in your hoop house, light it up, so then the heat is captured, within that 20 by 12 hoop house or plastic casing, and it just keeps it nice and toasty. And that's, like I said, usually used. That's a very old way to do it. These days, people don't do that anymore. I do all my stuff is maybe my practices are 1900s, 1920s.
That's so cool.
Because I don't have I have 2.2 acres within the city, but it's not one giant plot. My plots are all different sizes, all over the neighborhood here in Cold Spring Park in Concordia. So the actual square footage comes out to 2.2. but it's not
Right.
just one giant plot. So, for example, I'll show you after planting is done. You guys can come over and do a day trip, and I'll walk
Okay.
you through this is, for example, my arugula patch. This is my beet patch, and I do crops.
Mm-hmm.
So each plot is a separate identity, within the whole market. It's a market garden, and it's amazing. And I think, I just am very blessed at what I, get to do. So.
Oh, of course. I agree.
Yeah.
I don't get to do that ever. Thanks so much. Speaking of which, spin gardening, which you had prefaced before. So specifically, what exactly does that entail?
Spring gardening?
Or spin gardening. Spin.
Oh, spin
Is it
gardening.
spin?
Okay, spin gardening.
Yes.
Yeah, let's get into that for a minute. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Spin
That's
gardening.
fine.
It's a fairly, I don't know if it's a newer practice. I think it's a revived practice that's coming back. So this is a perfect example. Okay, and I'm just going to pull a veg out there, a short-term 30 to 45-day crop. So let's say green beans, perfect example. Okay. We prep the soil, we plant the seed comes up, we get our harvest. Okay, because of the land restraints that I'm on, I have to make sure that I can get the most productive amount of food out of that area.
Okay.
So if it's an area by 20 by 20, so that means typically I get about probably 3 to 4 crops out of there in one growing season, depending on what I plant. So getting back to the green beans are ready to harvest. Usually you get the largest productivity of a green bean plant is the first and second harvest, okay, if I'm even going to go that way. So usually what I do is I let it go the first time. It's real heavy, real prolific. It's there. I pull maybe 2 bushels of beans out, and I know I have a call for another crop. It's a short-term crop. For example, if I need radishes or lettuces, or I'll plant another 45 or under 45 days. When I refer to that is the day from plant to harvest.
Okay.
So you're right. So then what I'll do is I'll just turn it around again, pull out the plants, recondition the soil. Don't let the soil rest, but we're going to make sure it's all full of nutrients and all the good stuff. And then we replant another crop in that same area. So instead of a typical gardener, they'll go, we'll plant our beans, we get our first harvest, we'll get a halfway decent second harvest, but then the plants get long and spindly. Well, what do we, they just let it go. Typically, not everybody, but the typical homeowner who isn't really into gardening, they don't realize, well, let's pull it out, plant something, and if they do figure that out, then it will be, only 2 crops versus 4, because I have to work the heck out of that property to get that amount of food in a certain time frame.
I believe it. Sure, I imagine. I can't even. Well, I can't even imagine, to be honest with you. And I just found out yesterday when I was finalizing this interview, you prefaced such a thing as a peach jam, but it's not just peach jam. The first name of it is actually my last name. There's such a thing as Mich. You had written down Mich peach jam.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm so asking.
Peach.
That's my name. Well, Mich.
Right.
So I was like, how cool is that? Is it actually named after me? Probably not. But I thought I'd ask anyway.
There you go. Right. Have you had that? I'm really into canning too, because a lot of times after market, or in between CSA pickups or restaurants are slow, especially here in Milwaukee with the festivals. So then I end up with all this produce. So what do you do with it? I mean, you can give it away, which I do. I can. I preserve. I freeze. I do all that stuff, again, pulling the history from our ancestors back into the modern day. Now, how cool is that?
Cool. It's absolutely cool, as a matter of fact. I want to switch to the other side of the fence and talk about something, because Once he got himself established, I thought it was so cool that in the past, and I want to see if we're going to continue to do this, it looks like on a yearly basis you do two different bigger things, meaning that you have performed open houses before and such a thing as, that coordinates around Oktoberfest. So are these events things that you're going to do every year? Or have
I do it every year.
You do?
Okay,
so
every
it's a
year.
staple.
Yeah.
Okay.
And may I ask,
gotcha.
you must have been taught.
I'm smart. Remember, you've heard my show. I'm a journalist. This is what I do.
Oh, exactly. Exactly.
See?
I love it.
Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah, tell us what that's all about.
Okay, well, my heritage, like most people here in the Milwaukee area, Wisconsin, or throughout the country, I should really say, they're German. My mother came over here in '54 from Bavaria. So to me, it's just part of my heritage. And I celebrate Oktoberfest because it's always the second week of September. And I make sure I grow enough food. So I distribute the food to my guests raw, beets, carrots, so on and so forth. And the condition for them to enjoy a good meal, drink homemade liquor, all kinds of wonderful beer, is to bring back a dish that comes somewhat, whatever history, whatever ethnicity they are. They have to create something out of that ingredient and bring it back to the farm. Okay. So everybody can enjoy it.
Okay.
How cool, right?
I would have to agree that, yes, I would love to participate in something like that. And clearly the open house speaks for itself. Now, do you do open houses
one
time a year?
For the farm and
okay.
Pardon?
Do you do them one time a year or do you do them multiple times, like the open house? Like how many times a year do you have people come and you do that sort of thing?
Well, if you belong to the CSA, you buy, which is community-sponsored agriculture, okay? You actually buy into the farm. So that's your farm as much as it is mine. I grow your food for you. So that's an open door. That's an open door no matter what. If they want to come in and see my practices, what I'm doing, so be it. I mean, don't call, just walk on in,
Sure.
And the Oktoberfest, go ahead.
No, go ahead, that's fine.
Okay. And the Oktoberfest is my thank you to the restaurants, my friends, for putting up with me because, in September, October, I get a little grouchy. Right?
Note to self. He gets grouchy.
180 days just working all the time. You make hay when the sun shines, as they say. And, I'm lucky I get about 4 half-a-days off a whole summer.
Oh, my God.
That's
insane.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
Well, I'm a one-man band.
I don't even know if I can do that. I know that drill. The one-man band thing. You're flying your own flag, so to speak, as a matter of fact.
Right.
You get to brag about your own self. And then he gets to come on my show, and I get to brag about him. Now, listen to this. Just listen. This is to the audience. Just listen to this. So he's been featured on Milwaukee.com. He's been featured on JSOnline.com. He has been featured on AMC Castles across America, as well as Trading Spaces and Victoria Magazine. And he was named number 3 this year for Shepherd Express for the best urban farm. So when all of this happens, because I know the answer to this, but you're going to tell your audience this. So is it the accolades that matter to some degree? I mean, are you working so hard and so diligently to be recognized by outside press, et cetera? Or obviously, is it just more important that you maintain your own personal message and mission?
You got it. The second one, you nailed it right on the head.
I know.
Exactly.
But tell them,
I love what
they don't know.
Right. Okay. Well, I love what I do. Like I said earlier, I'm very blessed. I do this because I enjoy doing this. I may not be the richest man in the world financially, but I am the richest man you will ever meet because I see miracles every day in every plot that I go to. You just have to pay attention. I see the circle of life. I see it every day around me. And the accolades, that's just another feather in my cap, as they say. I'm very passionate about what I do. And, history, getting back to history again, I got some beans from 1863. They're called Lazy Housewife. It's a pole bean. How cool is that? I am actually touching a bean, a seed that's been around since Lincoln's time. And I get to experience eating the same food that Lincoln did. It's better for you, I think, than all the hybrids out there. I mean, I do use hybrids, but they're cross-pollinated. They're not GMOs.
Sure.
Okay. I have certain issues with certain things, and I beat to my own drum, just like you do, Cindy.
Yes, I do.
The only difference between you as an artist, because you are an artist, you're a director. I could never do that.
Really?
Right?
You think?
My medium is soil. I'm not a potter. I don't work with clay. I'm not skilled at being an actor. So my medium is soil. and to me, that's the coolest thing. Just like any other artist that does their craft. And I'm just lucky I have, the knowledge and the interests. I was taught many years ago, gardening kind of happened when I was a kid. You're outside. That was back in the day, when moms were still at home and they weren't working. And my mom used to have not a veg garden, but a flower garden. And it literally planted the seed, and it just took off from there. And then I took a blow-off course in high school, horticulture, right? Needed another science class, and that was it. Boom. And I went off to school and got my degree.
I mean, you're hearing this. Oh, I just went off and did this, and all of a sudden this happened. And there you go, and that's the rest of it, and the rest is history. How funny are you? Oh, my gosh.
Right.
Now, to those of you that don't know this, he first started growing, obviously, back in 2012. So he's been going at this about 6 years now. I would say a little shy of 6 years. Now, I want to ask you about when you first started out, you had made a comment, or I had heard this somewhere along the line, where you said that you believe that food creates connections. So talk a little bit about that merging of product and people, and how one puts together the other.
Okay. Well, first of all, food connects everybody. Everybody has to eat.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, what ethnicity you are, what religion, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And food connects people through culture, through religions, through life. I mean, and you can tell. For example, I'm German, so, perfect example, sauerkraut. If you're Polish, they'll do cabbage leaves. I mean, and you get to talk, and you'd be amazed, the general public, when you're selling stuff. And I always ask people, I'm like, for example, we'll talk cabbage. What are you going to do with that? And they're like, oh, I got this recipe from my grandmother, and I'm going to try this. And what do you think about this? And I get to interact with people back and forth. Or they're like, for example, oh, well, what is this? And I'm like, oh, let me explain this to you. This is how you prep it. This is how you cook it. This is, and by no means am I a chef. But I think I'm a pretty darn good home cook, because, again, when there's extra, I have to utilize it, and I have to eat it.
Right.
And I don't like wasting food, And that's what connects us, is food connects everybody. Somehow, some way. It's a very spiritual journey to be invited to sit down at somebody's dinner table. I think a lot of people take that, advantage of that. To me, that's a gift. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a little strange, but it is a gift that you can sit down and break bread with people and put your phones away, unplug, and say, hey, what is going on with you? And connect that way.
Exactly. He's 100% right, by the way, actually, to tell you the truth. It's nice just to be able to sit down and take 35 seconds and disconnect, because we don't all get a chance to do that, as a matter of fact. Forgive me for backtracking a second, but I had a question. To those that, that he may not have mentioned it, he attended, obviously, UW-Madison and Gateway Tech in terms of getting his horticultural background, education-wise. So tell me a minute about those listening in. If they even wanted to try to grow, meaning on a professional level, I mean, all of us have tried, I think, at some point growing garden stuff, meaning food, flowers, etc. But if they want to get a little more serious about it, make a business out of it, how much educational background would you recommend for the average novice to have to even try to delve into this? Or do they even need it? Is life experience enough? Do you know what I mean? Play both sides of the fence for me there, if you would.
Right. Let's touch that. Let's touch a subject for a while. I'm not a college guy. Okay, attended it, didn't like it. I went to a tech school. I found because I'm a hands-on guy. Okay,
right.
I think the average person, if you love what you do, no matter if you have a sheepskin or not, and you have the perseverance to get through it, the tribulations of whatever career you choose, you can do it. I know many, many men and women who are self-made.
Right.
And that's, yeah, I mean, you need your background. You need your basic skills. Absolutely. You can even get in, if you get into a large farm, let's say 800 acres, absolutely, that's all going to help, figure out, the yieldage, the percentage of fertilizers, chemicals, et cetera, et cetera. And you need to have that basic. I don't deal with that. And I think the average person, if they feel that there is a calling for this, come on aboard. I help people out who want to start a CSA. I have a new farmer. She's my egg lady, and she wants to start a CSA so she can sponsor agriculture out in her area. Yeah, she has some land, but she wants to do a community-sponsored agriculture, grow good, decent food so she can give her community some. And she asked me, she's like, well, how do you do this? I said, you know what? Let's sit down and talk, and I will mentor you. I have no issue with that. But don't think it's going to come overnight. And it's going to be a lot of work, and there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, just like any other, field, and you can't get disappointed. Right. You can get saddened for a little while to, just get back up on the horse and persevere. Exactly. And, I have issues. I have issues with crop failures all the time. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. Sometimes it's too wet. Sometimes we have mildew issues, too dry. That's just farming. I'm no different than a large farmer, I guess. I don't deal with animal grains, alfalfa, field corn, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I grow, 50 different varieties, heirloom here in the city. And, and sometimes I like to co-op out. Also with other small farmers who are even smaller than me, because that helps me out, because it's a double-edged sword. It helps them out, and it helps me out, and it helps our community out, because there's a lot of people that, for example, hey, I planted 8 plants of tomatoes, too many. My neighbors are sick of them. I'm sick of them. Can you help me out? And they practice gardening practices, organic, or environmentally friendly, if you want to say. I think organic's really an overused word these days. And I just, here, I'll give them a couple bucks. They're happy. I'm healthy. My community's happy. We're offering a good, fresh product. And it just brings small artisan people who do this on a hobby all together, and we kind of co-op, and we all feed off of each other. And, it's not what you know, it's who you know, and that's really the truth of any industry, and it's a win-win.
That's very cool. Absolutely very cool. And then he wonders why. Because we talked about this at great length. Now that you're listening to him, how many people, and you can just raise your hands invisibly because I can't see you, he should be teaching. I think we should be doing let's have a little party at home with the girls where he can on occasion come to your house, have a little party, teach us a few little things about that stuff. Because, for instance, he puts together these little homemade spirits. So I'm like, how cool would that be to have your own little home party where he's coming in for a little while and teach you how to make spirits? I think we're all on board for that. Yes, we are. So when's that going to happen? See, I've already decided for you. We're just going to have you teach little home parties on occasion to these women, and we're all going to be very happy. But seriously, though, he does infused vodka. I know that you do rum chata. I also know that you do Bailey's. So tell us about the spirit side of things, because obviously I know clearly you're not out in the garden and literally growing spirits. So, I mean, why delve over on that side of the fence? I mean, do you just prefer those brands, or how do you get into that?
Well, it's all part of the whole foodie thing, right? Sure. I mean, if you have a good meal, you need something good to drink.
Amen to that one. That's what I say.
I mean, be it wine and or spirits.
Correct.
Yeah, what's cool about this is this year we're going to be doing vodka. I'm going to grow a full extra rows of potatoes, and we're going to do a nice potato mash vodka. And I have a friend of mine who is 97, who used to be a bootlegger back in the 30s. How cool is that? And cool. I asked him, he's an elderly gentleman. Not an issue, gets around, just does his own thing. And he's like, why do you want to know about this? He goes, my kids have no interest in that. I said, why wouldn't I? I said, that's history right there again. I mean, how cool is that? We're not going to no one's going to go blind, and we're going to use the old copper still, and we're going to do the mash, and we're going to it's going to sit there, and it's going to do its thing, and then we're going to bottle it and, get a nice liqueur or vodka out of it,
Cool.
And the Bailey's, I love my Bailey's. Right? You'll have to get a bottle.
Who doesn't?
I'll make sure.
Who doesn't like Bailey's? Who doesn't like rum chata? Who doesn't like all of that good jazz?
Right. And all that is made out of real cream. I mean, yeah, it's cream, but it's totally different. I mean, I'm sure there are listeners of yours that dabble in this too. I mean, it's a pretty big thing.
Oh, I'm sure.
But
oh, yeah.
I use the real cream. I use, the real half and half. So it's a total, when you taste it, and the real chocolate, when you swallow, for example, the Bailey's, I mean, it is beautiful. But I'll warn you one time, 3 or 4, just a nice little thing on the rocks. 2 of those, and you're off to La La Land. I'm serious. It's hilarious. I love it. And I don't know. I just enjoy. I just enjoy doing things that I guess most people have no inspiration to do, or they don't have the time, or the interest. I'm just the opposite. I'm the opposite. I try to. I get up, I go all day, and when I come home, I want a nice quiet evening. Have a sip here. Whatever, and then I'm off to bed by 8 o'clock during the summer, so I just want to unwind and relax, and I share it with my friends. I'm going to make you some wine. We talked about that too.
Yes, we did.
So
we talked about the organic wine thing. That's awesome. Just that whole. But here's what I want to know about that. Okay, so for instance, let's backtrack a little bit, because that's the spirit side of things. So, of course, on the food side of things, just to give you guys some introspective on what he does. So, of course, what happens is the traditional way, as he speaks about it, which is he rents yards to grow his foods. And then in return, he gets land and water, for instance. So this whole community agreement whereby you're using land and then in return you get something back, obviously it's a give and take sort of situation between homeowners
Correct.
and yourselves. And you discussed
Correct.
the option of becoming a CSA, as you were mentioning, or get involved with that. So if somebody's listening in, whether they live in Wisconsin or let's say they live in another state that offers this sort of arrangement, if somebody wants to become involved in a CSA, how do they do something like that?
Actually, you mean for them to approach me and grow produce on their property?
Right.
That...
And I'm assuming that's the first part. And then the second part is if somebody's listening in New York City or Jersey or California or somewhere, is this an option for them as well? Meaning, is this nationwide? Is this practice something that's done everywhere?
Oh, I'm sure it is. Absolutely. Okay. CSAs are pretty much, I mean, this is a revolution. This is a lifestyle. Go approach next time, for example, if you're on the East Coast or even in different parts of the Midwest or out west, approach your local farmer at the farmer's market. See if they offer a CSA. Approach the. I personally prefer, and I'll probably get some feedback about this. You need to nurture the small farmer. So, if there's a kid out there or a young man who's just starting off in life, he decided to go down this venture, go down there, approach him, talk to him, see if they offer it, because it's a win-win. You know where the food's coming from. You're helping out a small farmer. I mean, that could be the difference between a dance lesson for their child or not. I mean, that's how vital. How we as a society need, the grocery store ain't going to miss you if you don't go in there next week. But I'll tell you, that farmer, he will miss that couple dollars out of his pocket because you decided to go to the market. Okay. And just approach your local urban farmer and or go online, see if there is a CSA in your community, which there really is. Regarding if someone approaches me to grow produce on their property, we'll get into that. Basically what it is, it's an automatic into the CSA, which is about a $480 value, okay? Give or take, per season. And I either do it with water rights and or without. I prefer with water rights. And then they get the full-fledged CSA program, which is twice a month, pick up their veg, assorted veg, whatever's in season. They can hit the trading post, which you haven't seen yet, but that's where all my that's where my honey is, my artisan maple syrup. They can order eggs through me from one of my farmers. So they automatically become part of the collective. That's what I offer them. In exchange, I ask for their soil and water rights. And, you ain't going to really even notice about the water bill. And people are kind of weird about that. And I understand water's expensive. I get it.
Oh, sure.
But, yeah, absolutely. But it balances it out. Usually it takes 2 years for a plot. For example, let's say tomorrow I go to your house, till up your backyard or whatever allotment you give me. Prior to that, I'm going to explain your options, and I'm going to also tell you immediately, don't think that, it's a virgin garden. It's going to take a couple years to build up, the soil, get it really nice and going. So, and it's not going to be this perfect little cottage garden with 8 different varieties of veg in it, in nice little rows. Well, it might be nice little rows, but they're going to be crops, green beans or squash. Susie down the street, she's going to get melons. Tim across the street, he's going to get corn. I mean, that's how it works. But then that's how, again, the cooperative works. And Oktoberfest works because then you find out who the neighbors are, who the people somehow are involved in the farm regarding land, customers, and it brings everybody together back at the place where it originally started. Isn't that cool?
Doesn't that sound fabulous, you guys? I mean, are you hearing this? I mean,
right?
And the thing is, last you checked, or last I had heard, you're up to about what? Would we say about 50 products? Does that sound about right as it relates to the food side of things?
50 different varieties of veg.
Gotcha.
Heirloom.
Okay, I got it.
Now, I can go on to, go ahead.
No, fine, go ahead. Expand on that.
Oh, sorry. We do everything from jams, jellies, local honey, local maple syrup, which is in, by the way, eggs,
cool.
duck eggs, birds. When I say birds, I mean I co-op and help slaughter chickens when fall, so your birds are fresh. Turkeys. I just lost my contact for quail and pheasant and rabbit. He moved out to Vermont, right? So it's all professionally done. It's all wrapped up nice. And when you talk about chicken, usually my chickens go about 10 pounds. We're not talking a store-bought bird.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a mini turkey, right?
It just blows me. That just blows me away. Oh my God! And just so you know, folks, clearly you're not just selling to the average individual. You also sell to local merchants, of course, because I know it's not. You're at the markets as well as selling off to different merchants and such. So tell everybody where some of your produce ends up.
Wow. I sell to local restaurants here. In the Milwaukee area, Italian restaurants, Americana. And chances are, if you're eating in one of the more local downtown restaurants, sometime, some way, somehow, through your visit at that restaurant, you probably have eaten some of my produce, which is unique.
Oh, my God.
Right?
It just blows me away.
I don't know if I could drop names or not. I don't know. But
oh my gosh, yes. So Suzette, who owns the Pasta Tree Restaurant, who's a mutual friend of ours.
There you go, right?
Yes, the Pasta Tree Restaurant.
Susie, right?
Susie.
You can have my greens at her. My salad, my lettuce greens are on her menu. Lazy
I've
Susan.
had her salad. Had it there,
AJ,
and I loved it. Yes.
Yeah, she has some of my product. Tandem fried okra. That's some of my product. And then I go into the private chefs, who do personal cooking, cheesemongers, so on and so forth, who do corporate. And then I work with Kettle Range down on State because they do a lot of prefabbed food. Okay, they package their own meals or whatever, and they purchase local produce. I mean, I'm micro-local. So micro-local is 1 to 5 miles. And that's the reason why I'm also where I am, because you go 5 miles any direction, I pretty much cover the circumference of the city. And that makes a big difference, too, because it's even fresher than the stuff that was hauled out, picked yesterday, thrown in the coolers, and put on the truck from 30 miles away. And it helps me out. And I know everybody's like, local, fresh, Yeah, it is.
Right.
It's true. But
we want to support local.
To be unique
Clearly,
and to be able to grow 7,000 pounds within the city, now that's a trip.
Yes.
And why wouldn't you, support a small-time farmer? Or if he doesn't have it, he can find another farmer who does.
Exactly.
See?
So it's one hand helping the other hand on the local level. And by the way, folks, yes, we are having Susie, the Pasta Tree Lady, is coming on the show next month. Pasta Tree's coming on. I'm filming at a restaurant. And now, Stephen, you have to tell everybody, how did we meet? I like this story. Tell everybody how we met.
We met at the market. We met at the Christmas market, right? The Kindle market, yeah.
Oh, my God. Where did we meet?
That's when we met.
Inside the pasta tree, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, I technically call it inside the pasta tree, but you call it the Christmas market. Same thing, really. We actually met at Susie's restaurant, to tell you the truth. I was meandering around, and then it was somebody that was like, oh no, Scotty, our mutual friend Scott Barrett, a bad boy,
right.
among many other things, a local musician. He's like, you got to come back and see this. And here Stephen was in the midst of all these women, by the way, all different sorts of vendors were back there. We had jewelry and clothing and chocolate and the whole 9 yards. And there's Stephen sitting right there. And there's just something about him. There was just something. And I'm not going to lie to you folks, he could be a model. First of all, if you didn't see the picture, he's not ugly. Okay, so first of all, he's so cute. And then I was like, oh my God, he's cute and he's gay and he makes great products and he's friendly. And well, we had a few cocktails. And so it was like too fun. I'm like, I have to know this guy. Then he said he had a farm, and I'm like, oh, my God, he has to come on my show. And the rest of his kids met, and here we are. I'm like, oh, my God. So it's just, you have to go to the pasta tree. See what happens when you go to the pasta tree? You can eat his food, and you literally can meet gay men that are wonderful, or straight men that are wonderful.
Actually, you're right. And me and Suzette are talking about, are you ready for this? We haven't nailed the date down, but we had our annual meeting because I grow from seed to table. That's another term you might not be familiar. So actually, I sit down and pick their mind, especially like Susie. Susie likes certain varieties and that. And so I'm like, okay, this is what I can offer you. I'll order the seeds, and then I grow it from actually planting all the way through until it is on her plate.
Wow.
Did
you hear that?
Cool.
That's surreal. That is very cool. And most of us don't even have the time to do that. Like for us, like for me, for instance, especially the bigger the schedule and kids and everything else that goes on at home, we sadly don't get enough time to indulge and take advantage of some of the stuff that an actual farmer offers to us. You know what I mean? Because you're talking about economically cheaper. It's local, as we mentioned. Obviously, you're giving a love to our landscape originally because you're literally growing it in ground. It makes it convenient because, like you said, you work in so much of a radius. And more importantly, we want to talk about this. Tell folks a little bit about it. Actually is safe, folks, believe it or not, even though you go in the ground and he's fertilizing and doing all this, your foods are hugely safe for individuals to eat. Am I not mistaken? Very, very safe in terms of everything you do.
For example, getting back to when you would say if someone approached me for growing produce on their property, I automatically take a soil test to make sure there's no contaminants in it. Okay, so we're going to be done with the technical stuff. Then I do the basic. I don't use oil-based fertilizers. I don't use a water-soluble fertilizer. I use the old-fashioned manure. And right there, that's it. I didn't discover this. People have been doing this for hundreds and hundreds of years. I'm just bringing back to what it should be. Gotcha. Now, granted, it might not be feasible if you're growing, 50 acres of corn, especially these days, with the weed control and that. I just think that, some corporations have their hands in a little too much into our food. And I prefer knowing, for example, if I give you beets, okay, a nice bunch of beets, I can tell you exactly the soil composition of it, where they were, what it was grown in, the manure, how many, the time frame that it took. And it's on your, and you're just going to be like, holy mackerel. Yeah, those were picked just this afternoon. I mean, they were picked this afternoon, like an hour before you came, and here they are. And what's cool about it is it's a lifestyle. It really is a lifestyle, and it's going to help you, gain back, a lot of, like this gluten thing we were talking about the other day. Okay. That whole gluten diet, some people say, well, they're allergic to it. Well, yeah, I'm sure they are. I'm not even going to dispute that. My question is this, because with the GMOs that are out there these days, with all those hybrids, okay, is it actually the fact that you're allergic to the wheat? Or is it because the wheat was genetically modified and now you're allergic to that? So when I find out people, and I have issues, but I try to then find and research an older variety. For example, in the Victorian and Edwardian years, which is your great-grandmother, okay, her time, wheat was about 3 feet high. Wheat now is it's been bred down to about a foot and a half.
Wow.
Right? So, okay, what's going on? Okay, think about it. I mean, for example, the modified salmon, I might get some feedback from this negative too, but, you know, a lot of that farm salmon, they have eel stuff, you know, genetics in there. I mean, come on. If I wanted to buy eel, I would have bought eel, went down to my, you know, fishmonger. Let me have 2 eels. You know, why? Why are they messing with that? Certain things you just should not mess with. And I don't think your food should be messed with. Yeah, granted, you might get a better yieldage and you might get disease-resistant products, you know, plants out of that. But really, I mean, can't you cross-pollinate it? Why are we messing with nature here? Why are we sticking our hands into stuff like that? That's, to me, that's very unsettling, you know? And if you start eating cleaner, it's going to help you, and that's exactly what it is. You're going to if you start eating a more plant-based diet, and I am such a carnivore, I am telling you that right now, that a lot of times you'll shed the weight, you'll have more energy, you'll feel better, and you won't have that puffiness. And I've seen it through the last couple of years. I have clients that started off 2 years into the whole thing, and they've been with me all the way through. And, you know, well, Steve, I went to the grocery, you know, store, and I can't believe how rotten those tomatoes were. You know? Well, think about it. These tomatoes are grown, and granted, yes, we are in winter still up here in Wisconsin, 2 days in the spring, right. But those greenhouse tomatoes are California, you know, South America. Right. You know, they're brought in, they're picked green, they ripen, they're put on you know, all that nutrition is out of there. It's gone. There's nothing left. And people, when you buy your lettuce in a bag from the grocery store, lettuce should not last a week.
He taught me that. I remember that. I remember it.
Just shouldn't. Because that lettuce is gassed to preserve it.
I see that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, lettuce should not last a week in the refrigerator. There's something wrong with that, right? I mean, my take. That's my personal opinion. Yeah.
Oh, Lord. Now, if everybody was listening in today, and I keep trying to convince them, folks, in fact, I did the other day. Now, if they want to, if they live in the Milwaukee area, obviously, and they want an opportunity to taste your products or be able to meet you, how likely is that? Where do they go? What do they need to do?
Oh, awesome. Yeah, thanks. They can definitely, I'm on Facebook. Just say Goldenrod Cottage Urban Farm. And I believe you put the link up to that.
I did.
You can contact me through there. And or I'll be down at Kettle Range Saturdays from 10 until 2. And then we have a new location down by Allen Bradley on South First. And we will be doing that on Sunday mornings from 10 until 2. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to be a busy year this year. You know, plus if they're interested in the CSA, contact me through. I have 2 openings left. I'm pretty much sold out already. I only have 2. And if you're from the East Coast and or the West Coast or South, they can always contact me, and I can always send them out some local honey and or popcorn. Did you try my popcorn?
I have not tried your popcorn yet. I haven't had time, okay? The kids and I have not been home long enough to try it, so back off this weekend. Definitely I plan on trying it.
You're all in your director's chair now. I understand the
importance. My God, listen to him. He gave me honey. He gave me handmade, literal homemade popcorn, which I both have to try, as a matter of fact. And now you realize first of all, I see this all the time. I'm like, can you believe we've been talking for almost an hour and a half? I don't know where the time goes on the show. It's like insane. It's like either I'm getting better at this, or people are just comfortable and they can talk or ask right the questions. I don't really know, but it's kind of shocking to me. But since Stephen has listened to my show, he could probably tell you what's going to happen now, which is, number one, we always have surprises for the guest, and then I get to tell you what I think of you. So, first of all come the surprises. There's always surprises on this show. So, first of all, I was sitting and I was thinking the other day after we had seen one another, and by the way, our meeting for coffee that lasted an hour ended up lasting like 5 hours. So that should tell you something. He's a book of knowledge, and he keeps your interest, which is kind of awesome. But I got to thinking, and, you know, I'm doing this film, as you mentioned, I'm in the director's chair, and I laugh. I just did the teaser trailer. We haven't even shot it yet, but we're working on it. So I was thinking about it, and folks, if you follow me, you know the movie is called Love's Two-Way Mirror. So this movie has everything to do with love in terms of all the various ways that people show the words, I love you. Well, I'm talking to a man that genuinely says I love you to the ground and all of its products every day. So I got to thinking, and I said, if I asked really nicely, I wonder if he would come, or actually allow me, I should say, to come where he farms and actually film there. I actually think it would be important to incorporate this part of history and Milwaukee history that you're making every day when you produce food, to put that on camera as part of my project. So I would be honored if you'd let me do that.
Absolutely.
That means you'd be part of my movie. Wow.
You have to wait until I have my planting done. How is that?
Oh, my God, only he would say something like that. Yes, but of course I can wait. That's perfectly fine. So that was number one. Second of all, we've already talked about this before, which is I would love to see us do an event of sorts at the farm itself, obviously, because, of course, we're still trying to raise money because we're indie film. Indie film, just so you know, folks, that means we're broke all the time. Even when we have money, we just pretend like we have no money all the time because we never do. I mean, film's an endless process, so it's kind of like,
Well, welcome to my world, girl.
Well, I know. That's just it. So there's that whole concept of, yes, we need to have another thing, we need to do another event, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, I would love to be able to come and actually have some sort of formal event there because it's just, I've seen the pictures, folks. It's absolutely breathtaking without a doubt. And if I have my way, his products will be in New York City, which is my second home. He's not cooperating very well with that, but we'll work on him a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not a big city boy. Sorry. You know?
I know you're not, but it wouldn't kill you to have a little product in another place, just saying. Right, folks?
Yeah,
See, they all agree with me. They're nodding their head. They're nodding their head all the way from New York and all these other places. So this is the part of the show where I get to tell you what I think of you. And I do this. I've said this before. I write all of my own scripts. So obviously, this part comes right from the heart because I don't write it. So these are just thoughts off of the top of my head. And before I forget to mention this to you, Stephen, about 2 hours after the show gets finished, it's becoming archived on both Blog Talk Radio and I do it on the YouTube channel. So I'll send you two different links if you give me a couple hours. Then you can go back, post it up because I saw people are looking for the interview, etc. And then it's on my YouTube for life. So you're literally immortalized on my page forever and ever and ever. Okay, so now you get to rest, and I get to tell you what I think of you. So, these are my impressions of Mr. Stephen. And by the way, his last name, just so you folks know, he's spelled S-T-E-P-H-E-N. The last name is Seefeldt, S-E-E-F-E-L-D-T, in case you're wondering on how to find him if you want to find him on social media, because he has a Facebook page as well, meaning a personal page, not just for the farm. So, just wanted to clarify that. So, here we go. First time I saw this man, absolute first time, which we've already covered, which was at the pasture tree, the first thing that resonated about him is that you can feel the passion from him a mile away. And that's whether he's talking about a dog, a cat, wine, spirits, you name it. He has an inner joy. I'm always gravitated to people that have an inner joy with a beautiful smile, and even more importantly, a bigger purpose. He has a bigger purpose. His bigger purpose is twofold. First of all, he wants to make sure that we restore some of the legendary beliefs and methodology as it relates to farming and culture and cultivating food from as he mentioned, the 10s, the 20s, the 30s, all the way up until now. He is actually, whether he knows it or not, teaching our up-and-coming generation of individuals how to maintain our history here in Milwaukee. I can't tell you how fundamentally important that is as being a creative here who struggles so hard and so often to be able to get recognized in our small community. We are not always a community that embraces our creatives, unfortunately, let alone has an appreciation for the smaller things in life. He has established what I call a novelty niche in this area. There's only so many people that actually do what he does, and he does it with such style and finesse. He puts 120% of himself into it, so much so that I wonder sometimes if he's okay, because he really does work way too hard and way too often. He is probably hands down one of the most gentle, generous, loving, wonderful human beings I've ever had the pleasure to meet and only know for such a short period of time. I can easily see myself crying on his shoulder one night about the fact that I can't freight mail as wonderful as he is, not to mention the fact he is always willing to put out his hand and his heart to help the other people in the community. We are blessed by the fact that your products embrace all sorts of places in the area. Please tell me that you'll come back anytime to promote yourself, your farm, the people that you love, your foods. Please tell me that you'll at least think about teaching and spreading out that product. And lastly, and most importantly, the gift of your presence in my life, and hopefully many more that listen in today, is something that I find immeasurably invaluable. So I hope it stays for the rest of my life. So thank you.
Wow. Thank you. Beautiful.
Oh,
that was so beautiful.
But it's so honest, though. I mean, I think it's important to always follow up. Anybody can do journalistic research, and anyone can look up certain details and thoughts. But sometimes your own personal thoughts are the most important and poignant. So I hope I've done you justice. Now 50,000 people want to know you, and then you're in deep shit because now they're going to all want food from you. So don't blame me when all of a sudden everybody wants to know you. You want to come on the show willingly, folks. Just saying.
Bring it on. I'm ready, folks. It's spring here in Wisconsin. Go Milwaukee. You got it.
Go Milwaukee. Exactly. All right, my dear. I'm going to sign off. I'm going to get rid of you. You go back to going off and getting your stuff already, and I'll talk to you soon. And much love. I'm hugging you from afar. All right, dear. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much, Cindy.
Anytime.
Right.
Have a good day.
Guys. Yep.
Tell me he was not fabulous, right? Again, a reminder to everybody. His name is Stephen. It's Stephen, and last name, of course, is spelled Seefeldt. That is Seefeldt. Again, the name is Golden Rod, that's R-O-D, Cottage, which is an urban farm, of course. That's his name on Facebook. He has also got a personal page on Facebook. And as he mentioned, he's at the Pasta Tree Restaurant, which is on the east side of Milwaukee. Please go ahead and say hi to Susie Metcalf. Hi, Susie. I'm waving to you from here. Please make it a point to support him there. Look for him at the farmers markets because his name is actually on the products. Look on my radio show or my personal page. You'll be able to see his information on how to find him. Reminder to everybody one more time, 9:30 Central Standard Time tomorrow, which is 10:30 Eastern Time. The incredible and amazingly talented Mark Steinitz is going to be on the show. Hugely honored to be having him. And again, 2 o'clock Central Standard Time on Friday, the lovely, engaging, and elegant Emily Tappel of Muncie PR. Thanks so much to everybody for listening in. Again, a huge hug and a thank you for everybody who supported the Morning Blend and my cast and my film. You guys have a great afternoon. I'm headed off. If you guys are local and you got time tonight, get over to the Red Dot in Tulsa. That's where Cindy's going to be from 6:30 on. I have a meeting or two, but the lovely and wonderful Josh Becker of Cherry Pie has the acoustical open jam tonight. Please go and support your local musicians. Thanks again, you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
What a matchup!
And what a team, Mike. Metro PCS and the iPhone SE for $0 on a network that covers 99% of people in the U.S. Oh, impressive.
Play with the best. Switch to Metro PCS and an unlimited LTE plan and get a 32-gig iPhone SE for $0. Metro PCS. Coverage not available in some areas, plus sales tax. Claim based on talk and text. Not valid for active numbers currently on the T-Mobile network or active on Metro PCS in the past 90 days. See store for details and terms and conditions.